Hi, and welcome back to
Inspired to Game. I'm Sean.
And I'm Lola. If you like what you see here, please support our channel by subscribing down below.
And if you've already subscribed, thank you very much. And think about throwing us a like.
Today, we offer you something a little different, something a little special. We have an exclusive interview with Jeff Irving, the creator of the Vrahode Game System that's on schedule to be released to Kickstarter this fall. This is a game over 30 years in the making. All the art that you just saw is just a small sampling of what you will be treated with this game. You are going to want to watch this interview. Now, before we get started, I do want to say, have patience with us with the sound quality and the visual quality. This was a recorded Zoom meeting on a laptop. And today we have Jeff Irving in Montana joining us today to talk about his game.
Vrahode.
Now tell us about it.
That's a big open-ended, question, isn't it? It's primarily the word Vrahode, and the name of our game system is based on the world that I came up with back in college. I was a fine arts, graphic design, and journalism student at Ball State University in Indiana, and I had always been a big gamer, and I had kind of grown a little bit tired of all the same tropes in fantasy, because I loved fantasy gaming, loved D&D, but I felt like fantasy could be so much more. That fantasy worlds could be defined in so many different ways, and so the world Vrahode came from that desire to create a place that allowed people that love fantasy to kind of re-experience it from the beginning. I mean, because I'm sure you guys have played your share of games, and probably your share of even fantasy themed products, or even read books about if you like to read fantasy books, how similar the themes kind of are. And so yeah, the whole thing kind of came out of a desire to let everybody start back from scratch. And step into a fantasy world like they had never experienced.
Well, that's really interesting. So what then inspired your fantasy world?
Well, like I said, I was pretty well read, and I loved Tolkien. I loved Robert Jordan. I loved Stephen R. Donaldson. I mean, I liked all the big guys, David Eddings. I liked all the big guys at the time. And they were really kind of pushing the boundaries on fantasy theme, but games weren't really at that point following suit. They were very kind of tropey. It was the male human fighter saves the village from the red dragon, and ad infinitum, just again and again and again. And I wanted to write those books. I felt like the story of Vrahode would be about a 3-book series to get the story arc in. And I said, hey, when my kids are grown, I'm going to do this. And so had 3 wonderful girls, and they grew up, and I did some writing through their childhoods. And I just found out that I loved to read, but the process of writing for me was not fun. I have this robust critic that just wants to beat me up every time I write. So I kind of wrote laboriously, and it just wasn't fun. And so I mean, as you can see, I'm starting to look like Santa Claus. I'm not getting any younger. I just decided that I wanted to share Vrahode with the world, but I had to surround myself with people smarter than me, than myself, to bring it to light. And so I decided that an interactive medium was what I really wanted. I wanted to be able to sit down with people like you guys and play and be a part of the world and be in it. So that's why we're here.
So tell us about the world.
Well, the world is extremely diverse, and we have a beautiful overland map created by Thomas Ray, a Frenchman from Angers, France. Honored to have Thomas take the map that I had originally done and redesign it with obviously cartographic consideration, to do it more accurately. And so what we ended up with is Vrahode is a world of 8 very distinct biomes or region types. There's mountains. We lump rivers, coast, marsh together because they're all kind of watery regions. Plains, forest, icy tundra, desert, badlands. We have over 200 distinct ocean regions. So oceans are another biome. And then beneath everything in the world, we have what's called the underlands. And the underlands are where all the caverns, dungeons, and dungeon complexes exist. So I would say that those 8 biomes kind of summarize really 8 subtly different areas that affect your play,
Getting into a little bit of the actual gaming system, the Harbinger 3D terrain system sounds really interesting. Can you tell us, I guess, give us an overview of that?
Yeah.
Oh, I certainly can. I'm always excited to talk about Harbinger because, quite frankly, Harbinger was the catalyst for this iteration of the Vrahode Game System. It started with that. It's a very, very simple 3D terrain system where you've got a lot of these wonderful companies like Dwarven Forge and others like them that are creating these wonderful, realistic 3D, almost like dioramas of areas that you can take players through. And what we wanted to do was basically kind of do the opposite of that. Those things are wonderful and they're detailed, but they're exceedingly expensive. And what we basically wanted to do was design a 3D system that was extremely simple, easy and fun to put together and take apart, and didn't really deal in and of itself with walls. It's more about the play surfaces that happen at various heights in the system. With our Harbinger system, it's just a series of room and hall tiles with stairs and stair risers and pegs that lift your dungeons off of the tabletop. So if you're using an encounter map, let's say, because we have 14 encounter maps in our core box, and they're 18 inches by 18, which all the folks that are hoping that a game like ours will fit on their Kallax shelving are going to be angry with me. But that 18-inch encounter map would be level 1. And then we lift level 2 up 2 inches. And the system is not designed to stack because no one wants to dig underneath things to grab minis and move them. It's designed to sprawl. And so it goes up with stairs, and then you're walking along rooms and halls that are elevated by black plastic, matte plastic pegs that basically visually kind of go away. And you end up with this this 3D dungeon experience that is really immersive. And the thing that happened by accident and that we didn't expect, it was kind of a bonus, is how precarious it feels to be up 4 inches above the tabletop, navigating your miniatures along room and hall tiles. It gives you the sense that you're going to fall off, your hero's going to fall, but it heightens the sense of immersion. And so that was kind of neat. But we take those real basic room and hall tiles and we apply full color artwork to the tops of them. So it doesn't require you to paint them or do anything. Once you affix the artwork to the room and hall tiles, it's ready to go. You can place it on the table. It is very quick to put together and take apart. And we're not trying to replace the flat tabletop for adventuring. We're just offering it to augment it and to give you other options with your, well, for us, it's for our stories. It's a storytelling tool. And for content creators, it's another a bit of ammo in your arsenal for creating your own quests and quest chains. And for example, you can go into a dungeon here on the tabletop and have to work your way up through it. Or you can introduce players to multi-level dungeon complexes up here where you would expect to enter a dungeon and have to work your way down through the levels. And so it does allow for some really neat creativity to come into play that you couldn't otherwise access because you just don't have the tools.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Mhm.
What's the maximum height that it reaches?
Okay, so so the tabletop is level 1, 2 inches up is level 2, 4-inch pegs take you to level 3. And at that point, we can also introduce what's called a dungeon riser. And it's a 4-piece unit that takes one of those 18-inch encounter maps and elevates that to 4-inch height. So you could have level 1 at tabletop, level 2 with 2-inch pegs, the dungeon riser set to 4-inch pegs at level 3, and then you could build level 4 and 5, 2-inch and 4-inch, on top of that dungeon riser. So that would be 2, 4, 6. So it's the maximum height that the Harbinger system will go off of the tabletop is 8 inches.
Wow,
Wow,
that's pretty impressive.
that is.
Yeah. So I've been holding out on the Harbinger more than anything. And, it's wrong to be paranoid that anyone would take your ideas because everybody's got great ideas and everybody's, creating their own way to do things. But the Harbinger is the one thing I really hoped we could be the first to bring to market.
That's fantastic. And are you guys on schedule for a later year Kickstarter release?
Everyone tells me we are on schedule. The marketing guy, who's the guy that runs the project, tells me that we're on schedule and everything looks really good. The Harbinger system just went through a redesign so that we could cut mold costs. So we had to do a redesign, but it made it more functional. It made it fit much better together. It was a blessing, actually, to have to redesign it because I'm not an engineer. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew it wasn't that complex, but it took me 4 different companies before I found one that finally understood even what it was and that there was any merit to it.
Wow.
So London, Limelight Miniatures in London was the company that finally understood my vision. And once they saw the artwork on it and I sent it back to them, they couldn't even believe that that's what they helped me with. They're like, is that the Harbinger? I'm like, yeah.
Nice.
So, but thanks for asking about that because it's like I said, I've been keeping it kind of close to the vest. I just got word from Longpack, who is our manufacturer of choice in China, and Roy Wren, my representative there, just sent me an email prior to this interview and said, hey, I'm sending you a sample of all of the Harbinger stuff and it'll be to you by the 20th. Which means I'll actually be able to take it to Genghis Khan with us and show it off.
That'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a bit about the heroes you could play.
Okay. Well, in the core box, we give you the opportunity to choose one of 12 pre-generated heroes. We offer a female and male appearing hero from each of 6 races. So, we don't necessarily want to say that they are male and female, but those are the pronouns we'll use for our heroes, I suppose. But the 6 race, there's 10 crafted races on Vrahode that were all crafted by a race of beings called the Akurish. They came to Vrahode and they made 10 races using their particular type of magic. And the 6 that we let you play in the core box are the Tureln, the Kautuk, the Drelrune, the Minok, the Mahari, and let's see, did I say Athakul?
Nope.
Yeah, so I think that's all 6 of those. And like I said, there's a male and a female version, each of those. And there's also 12 roles, or what you might know as classes in some RPGs. So we have those 12. None of them look like your traditional heroes. We have no humans, elves, dwarves. We have no dragons, trolls, orcs, not in our world. So you get a chance to kind of re-explore what a hero looks like. And each of the races that you get to play in the core box has unique abilities and some weaknesses as well, to force that asymmetry in your group, in your play group.
I remember reading about some customization. Is that in the expansions, or is that in the core box as well?
We give you a custom hero deck in the core box, and that lets you, basically you get a pool of 40 of the points are assigned to your stats already for you as a custom hero, and then you get to assign the other 10 to kind of push your build towards the role that is most suited to your play style. So yes, you can use those 12, the male and female of those 6 races to create custom heroes at that point. And then in the second expansion, which is called Facing the Storm, we introduced the last 4 of the 10 crafted races. They join the fight to save Vrahode, and that is the Juaran race, the Chorn, the Sahroon, and the Greenling. Those races all join, and with them, and you get 6 new heroes then. And with them, you also get 6 new roles. There's a Slayer, there's a Weapons Master, a Nature Priest, a Marksman, and a Juggernaut, and a Lore Master. So we add those. So basically, by the time the second expansion begins, there are 18 pre-generated heroes and roles, and then again we give you another custom deck again in expansion 2, so that you can take those 4 added races and create your own custom heroes additionally. Then
some of the roles sound a little more.
Yeah, I like the Nature Priest. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I was
that
about
sounds
to say,
great.
well, the wonderful thing, the thing I like about the Nature Priest is she's very diminutive. She's a greenling as a pre-generated hero. She's only about 2 feet tall. And she is a permanent flyer, which means she doesn't have to land at the end of her turn. She can remain aloft and out of melee range. She has a skill. She has to carry an apothecary kit with her in order to do one of her main skills, which is that she can, based on rare herbs that she gathers that are specific to different biomes, she can then craft a potion during her downtime while she's not fighting and helping the group. And she can keep those potions to herself. She can share them with her party mates, but she alone has the ability to generate and actually create potions in our world. No one else does. The potions are already in the world. You can find them and then you can discard them. But she alone has the ability to generate potions with her own skills. And I think that's a powerful thing that she'll be able to bring to her group.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
We were wondering a bit about combat. So what does the combat system look in Vrahode?
Yeah. What we've tried to do, I think a lot of game designers get, well, they're probably smarter than I am. I'm not a big fan of rules. I really like the social time. I like social interaction. I like when I used to play role-playing games. I really just loved the story and interacting with my friends. And so we tried to write a game system here and a rule system that is not a deep dive into rules. It's maybe 20 or 30 very shallow little rule holes that once you familiarize yourself with, they're easy to remember, they're easy to teach, and easy to learn. And so our combat system is indicative of that. And so like when I go into combat, I have over here, I've got the ability to move, to use an item, to equip something, to unequip something and change to a different weapon. But then on the other side, when it comes down to the combat portion of combat, we're all going to have 3 choices. Okay, we're all going to have racial abilities that are unique to our own races that we're playing, right? So your Nature Priest, your Greenling, she's going to have 2 racial abilities that only she has. And she'll be able to choose to use one of those if they're applicable for that battle, that setting. Or she can choose to do a physical attack. Let's say she's got a dagger or two small swords or a blowgun or whatever she's got. She can choose to do a physical attack. Or, even though the racial abilities she could have chosen are magical in a sense, because it's of her race, it doesn't cost her. We call our magic in Vrahode, we call it rule. So it doesn't cost her any rule to use a racial ability. The third option is her skills. It's how her magic is focused. And the nature priests, their school of influence or their school of rule is spirit. It's spirit heavy. It's about union with nature. It's about devotion. It's about faith and healing and selflessness. And so she can choose to use one of her skills, and that costs her a rule. So she's got to spend one. She has an allotted amount of rule that she can use during a day, or we call it a wake cycle, because you have wake cycles and you have rest cycles, and they are of varying lengths all the time. So that's basically the choices that someone has to bring to bear in combat. You know, you can, and we've simplified the thing down where it's not all about total realism or tactical detail. It's more about fast, fun, and consequential combat. So there's no attacks of opportunity. If you break away from someone, we're assuming you're not just going to turn your back on an enemy and walk away. We're assuming you're going to back away with your weapons out and run like hell, right?
Yeah.
And so there's no attacks of opportunity. No, your arrows don't run out. We're assuming that you're going to be looking for, you know, the things that help you make arrows when you're in your downtime. There's a lot of assumptions like that in the game, because we just really don't want anyone to get bogged down in minutia. We want something that's accessible. And so combat kind of feels that way. It feels fast. And once you kind of say, okay, here's my options. I have this finite amount of skills. I have a finite amount of racial abilities, and I know what a physical attack looks like. Then things start to kind of speed up and click. You know, they kind of click along pretty quick. I think one of the things that our play testers have responded best to with regard to combat is our threat system. So we have about 30 scaling mechanisms in our system. This is just things that say, if you're playing solo, you're not going to be subjected to this, or, you know, as you add heroes to the play, things scale up to make them fun and challenging for whatever player count you have. And so one of the ways we did that in combat is through a threat die system. So let's say the three of us are in a party together and we enter a region. Well, we're noisy, we're stinky, you know, we're out on the road, and the things that live in that region are going to smell us and they're going to hear us. So we have to roll a threat die. And because there's three of us, we have a 50% chance of creating threat. If it was just you, Lola, and you were by yourself, you would only have a 1 in 6 chance of increasing the threat from a region. So you're going to be kind of stealthy, right, when you're by yourself, but the three of us, not so much. So we roll our threat die. If we roll a negative number, because we have a custom D6 called a modifier die, and instead of a 1 through 6, it's labeled -3, -2, -1, +1, +2, +3. So we don't want a negative outcome, but we just rolled a -3. So now we have this threat die we have to resolve. So any of us can resolve it, and any of us can put it wherever we want. We can place it. When you enter regions, we all have to draw a card from a deck. That's another scaling mechanism. Okay, so we place these cards face down next to our hero dashboards, but we have to take this threat die we just rolled and we have to resolve it somehow. When you start the game, it has to be placed on one of those face down cards. If that's an enemy card that you just put it on, when it's revealed, instead of an enemy, it's now 2.
Okay.
So that's what happens when you increase threat from a region. You can either increase the number of enemies or later on in the game, once you solve the first module, you're able to place that threat die actually on the tabletop, not on a card. And then any and all enemies revealed in those 3 cards we had to place, on the table, any and all of them will exhibit behaviors, which makes them more challenging. So instead of increasing the number of enemies, we're increasing the challenge level of those enemies.
Okay.
So that's combat.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So if you're playing solo, do you have to like two-hand it? Like if you're playing Gloomhaven, if you're playing Gloomhaven solo, you've got 2 characters that you're playing. Is it similar with the system?
The way we do it, we've spent a great deal of time with scaling mechanisms in order to make solo play possible without having to run more than one hero, because our hero dashboards, they do manage quite a few data points and they do it in a very concise way. They're wonderful. But I think that you can solo our game. We just, we have allies that are abbreviated versions of heroes you can employ and take with you.
Tell us about the antagonists in Vrahode.
Okay, that's a great question. I love it because one of the things that I feel like is an advantage for us when we serve up this game series, which is four games, core box, which is essentially half of the story arc, and 3 very large expansions that essentially make up the other half. The story arc, I guess as a young man, I kind of fell in love with this idea that humanity was at some point in the distant past was actually part of the Fae, that we were respected by the Fae, that we had our own magic, that we knew how to treat our world. We knew how to treat others. We knew how to live in balance with nature. But things happened to humanity, much as they did in Tolkien's works. They were weak and greedy and power hungry. And I kind of feel like that is a good antecedent for the antagonists in the stories, in the Vrahode story, because essentially what I see that the main antagonist being in the game series is us. It is the worst of us. It is what happens to you and I when we let our lower selves rule and we give into technology and let it rule our lives to the point that we're so dependent on it that it kind of becomes us. And so in our frustration, humanity ultimately is forced to leave the earth. And we don't do it in a science fiction way because this is a fantasy series, but we bump up against it by saying from afar, they arrived from afar, things like that. We kind of get rid of the idea of ships and lasers and things, but we, now the Akurish, okay, this is our descendants, our kids that have left the earth, and they've gone to find a way to recover their magic, their rule. And they have arrived on Vrahode as conquerors. And the story is, the main thing I think that's compelling about our story is that it's based on layers and layers of lies and misunderstandings and ignorance, even by the antagonists. In their brilliance and their ability to create these 10 races, they craft the races from animals, plants, and elements of the world of Vrahode. They believe that they literally created them, but they misunderstand. They misunderstand their own magic, and their magic is a bit more combinative than it is creative. And so there's a lot of spoilers I could give beyond that, but suffice it to say that there are many things that are understood in the world of Vrahode that are not true. And so part of the goal of the heroes is to peel back those layers, find the truths and the greater truths that exist beyond these layers of lies, and find a way to end this current bid for control of the world. And it's not the first. Vrahode draws attention from afar. There have been conquerors in the past, like the Priol and other races that have come and failed. And the cost of that failure of coming to Vrahode with control and power in mind and greed is servitude. The true creator of Vrahode, and there is a true God or creator of Vrahode, makes you pay a price for failure, and that is called the Shapeless. It's a mass of souls of all these past conquistadors that have come to take over this God's creation, this wonderful world. And then once you fail, you become part of the Shapeless, and you get to serve the next conquerors that come along.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the ultimate oops.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's really this kind of the gist of the story is about what happens to us when we become our worst. But it also starts from a point of hope, in that maybe at some point, humans and elves and dwarves and fairies were all brethren, that we all were able to love each other and exist in peace.
No, that's really amazing. Yeah, I love all of that. Yeah,
we've even written into the story that there needs to be heart to the characters and a moral price to pay for some of the choices they have to make. And so we try to do that by recognizing that some of the things that we're forced to kill in order to reach our goals are part of a natural world, and that we should understand that can't always be, that we have to return to a balance. And that's really kind of the moral of the story, is that in the end, if we just kill, then we're no better than the Akurish. We're no better than the worst of humanity.
No, I love that.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's so exciting.
Oh yeah, we're
question. So between the core and then the 3 expansions, are you is your initial characters from the core going all the way through? Can it, or is it designed to, or can you switch characters at some points? Or
yeah, so we have multiple play modes. So if you are wanting to play in a campaign style game, we have Sean Allen Dressler is our writer. He's written over a dozen books, 4 under his own name and over a dozen for other writers as a ghostwriter. The story arc in the campaign is about a prophesied one called Kaltiran, and he or she is prophesied. I believe the correct tense would be prophesied at that point to rise from one of these crafted races to thwart the conquerors and throw them back and lead and return the world of Vrahode to peace. And so as the heroes from the core box advance, they're able to advance through the entire story arc. We encourage them to not change heroes if they're playing in the campaign. We encourage that because it's not hard. Everyone's a caster. Everyone has the ability to use skills that are kind of antecedents to spells. They're similar. And many of those skills, if you choose them, they don't even require a success roll. So you're able to diversify and modify your hero builds quite easily. We simply give you a few skills to start that are very indicative of the role we think that this hero is at that moment. You can take a warrior from the minute of creation that has 3 body skills that are very warrior-like. And from that moment forward, you can move more into mind and be more of a caster. So we're encouraging people to remain the heroes that they started with, because it is a story and there are characters in it. But we have many modes of play in the game system. We have straight procedural play. We have solo one-off quests, which are commissions and then other quests. We have group one-off quests. We have skirmishes, which are like multiple waves of enemies in the same location. Then we have quests that are a bit farther flung, where you're going to several regions in a single quest. And then we have these expeditions that are multiple quest chains that can take you across the world, literally. There's multiple play modes and multiple difficulties, both in the system that we've designed.
Well, is there anything else that you specifically want to share about Vrahode and its system?
Well, I mean, like I said, you guys asking about the Harbinger is great. And that's a part that, because it's had to go through a very prolonged iterative process to be as fun to put together and take apart and use as it could be. And it is, like I said, it is finally happening. That's something we put off. Basically, the only thing else I would want to say to you guys is how much I appreciate the ability to talk with you and share the story, because I'm not CMON, I'm not Mythic Games, I'm not Steamforge. I'm a guy with an idea, with a story that's been in my head a long time. And for me, this is a quality proposition. I'm not wanting to cut any corners on the design of this or rush it to market. I really want it to be what it can be. And I feel in so doing, in trying to create the game I want to play, I think there will be a larger number of people that do, by virtue of that, want to come along with us. And we're finding that to be true. In the Instagram account and the Facebook group page, there's a lot of people that are really engaging and helping us make it better. And that's something that's not really available to people with larger companies. It's almost like calling a big company and getting stuck in their automated phone system. But with me, these people are engaging with me directly, and I'm actually showing them, hey, I took your idea and here's how it looks now. And so they're going, oh my gosh, that is simpler. And that is what I said you should do. And so I think that's fun for people. We knew we had a big headwind in coming to market against a lot of these big companies. And so we knew we had to do a number of things to counter that headwind, if you will, that ability for people to believe in us, to trust in us, that we have the chops to deliver a product, a game system. And that's something we can chat about briefly too, is why are we marketing this as a game system, not as a game series? But we decided we would do the long play on marketing. In other words, start way out, put the crowdfunding effort way out, give people a year and a half to really know me, begin to know the game, become familiar with these races that I so love, that don't look anything like the games they played. And then the other way we counter that headwind is by showing people, hey, we've got a ton of content here. This is not one little game. This is an enormous project, a core box that offers 3 novels worth of writing just in the core box. And each of the expansion nears the average length of an American novel, which is like 80,000 words. Well, our word count for our expansions is 60,000. So you can see we're not trying to release expansions to make money. We're trying to truly finish a robust story arc. And so that's really it. Is there's a real effort here to try to make good decisions and try to offer something that's special, even against big competition.
Yeah. Well, so is there any intention to add further to the system, like further expansions beyond this, or is it, it's complete and it is what it is?
Well, the story arc is complete. In other words, at the end of the core box, in fact, Kaltiran is the win condition, which everyone wants to know, right? You always want to know, how do I win? So the win condition of the campaign in the core box is that Kaltiran fulfills the prophecy and learns the magic of all 10 of the crafted races.
Wow. Sounds
so
nice.
your journey in the core box one of us is chosen at random to be Kaltiran, and it could be you. You could be the nature priest, the little 2-foot tall nature priest, and you could be the chosen one. And so what that mechanic, that unique mechanic that we've designed for Kaltiran is, it kind of becomes an escort game. We have to keep her safe, Sean, so that she can learn all the magic of the races. And but the complete story arc, the way we end that 4-box series, is we have to win. We have to defeat the humans. We have to defeat the worst of us to save the world of Vrahode. Now, there's other stories beyond it, and I even have an expansion idea. But the thing you have to remember is, because it's a game system, it's also a toolbox for content creators. Just a perfect example is Hero Quest. Hero Quest is a game system. Why is it a game system? Well, it's because they invite us in. They say, hey, you guys write quests. You know, come up with your own hero ideas. Come up with your own enemy ideas. And we do the same. We're saying, we're just giving you a great big story to play in if you like it. Play it procedurally if you want. And if you want to play your games and bring your players into our world of Vrahode for something fresh, we give you a robust toolkit with which to do that.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, you have a very big team working with you. Tell us about that. Like, how big is your team?
I think we have a Kickstarter preview page up right now, and the marketing, Brandon Rollins, my marketing guy, he listed the people on the team, and I started scrolling, and I'm like, holy cow, we got a lot of people on the team. I mean, I don't think it's huge, but for a small company like Weathervane Games, I think we've got 30 maybe.
Yeah, that's sizable. Yeah.
I've got 2 Russians, 2 Aussies, 4 Brazilians, 2 Brits, 4 Italians, 4 Americans. So yeah, I mean, I've got people from all over the world contributing. Oh, and a Frenchman. Let's not forget Thomas Ray, the guy that made our map, our board.
Okay. Yeah.
So
so it really takes a village, eh?
it most certainly takes a village. And I mean, I used to be in tons of bands when I was younger as a lead singer, and I was so humbled by the talent level around me that they could actually make me look good as a singer. And the same thing applies in this. I mean, I'm a guy with an idea and a story I wanted to go to with friends. And it took all of these wonderful, talented people around me, artists and writers, to finally bring it full circle. So I mean, without tearing up, which I do often about how amazing the experience is, but it's pretty cool.
So this isn't your first game design, right?
No, I had an extended illness back many years ago. I think it was probably 20 now. How quickly time flies, right? But I was stuck at home sick, and I had an extended illness. I couldn't work, but I still had all this creative energy, and I created kind of a fantasy homage to Axis and Allies, which is, I loved the Milton Bradley series of games. You know, Conquest of the Empire, Broadsides and Boarding Parties, Shogun, Axis and Allies, Fortress America. It was a big series of games that Milton Bradley did. But I loved those kind of dice chuckers, you know, where you've got, okay, I've got 4 rolls for a 4 or less. And then I've got 6 rolls for a 3 or less. And now I got 3 rolls for a 2 or less. And I thought, well, what if you change that from a World War II setting where it's tanks and fighters and bombers, and you made it troops in a fantasy army, and then the generals, the fantasy generals of those armies, would be a source of modification to the troops under their command. So I designed this fantasy homage to Axis. Now I sent it away to Fantasy Flight. They said, this is the best looking prototype we've ever seen, but it's a $150 game. And right now we're making $12 games. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't expect them to even like it. You know what I mean? So for me, it was a great learning experience. I never understood how difficult it was to write rules. rules are powerful, much more powerful than narrative in a novel, because you change one word in a rule book, it changes the way the game plays.
Yeah.
And so I really fell in love with writing rules, and I thought someday I'm going to return to the world of Vrahode, and I'm going to create a game that's better suited for the world, which was what we have now. That was a war game, and it was called the Vrahoden Chronicles. This, of course, this is Vrahode, and then we have subtitles. But and this is obviously not a war game. It is a little bit of a skirmish game, but obviously much more of a kind of a co-op adventure game / dungeon crawl.
Yeah, I love the story to it. I love all that how rich that is. That's what I'm really excited for this.
Well, and the other thing, and you'll probably be a campaign player then. You're somebody that would probably enjoy to do the quest through the campaign and watch your hero fulfill the prophecy and so on. And that's what Sean's for, our writer. He's focused more on the questing and the campaign. But I had to write the rules for this game system. And I'm one of those people that I like to, typically when I'm learning a new game, I like to kind of procedurally play it first and just kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the rules. And then once I understand them fully, then I'm going to wade over into the quests and the deeper content. But I'm going to make sure I know all of the ins and outs of the rules before I go and screw up a good story. Right? Where I've been focused is the complete opposite, is the procedural play. So this game will literally play itself with no DM. It'll scale from 1 to 6 players, and it will give you an immersive experience that will eliminate the left-hand turns that players often make, like in D&D. What's a DM's worst nightmare? It's the left turn, right? You've planned for A, B, and C, but you never planned for Q. Well, because this is a game system and the rule system is what's most important, it's the basket that holds everything together. If you take a left turn, well, okay, everybody pay 1 fatigue for entering a new region. Done. Everybody draw an overland exploration card, put it by your dashboard. Done. There's 3 of you. Roll a die. Boom. Place the die. You increase threat, and the game's just playing itself. And so that is the safety net, and the reason that we feel like some of our brilliant players that want to make their own quest chains will want to stay in the Vrahode system and take their players through it. We hope.
So how much playtesting have you done then? How long have you been playtesting? How many playtesters, that kind of stuff?
I've been playtesting for over a year, but a lot of that has just been notebook playtesting. In other words, it's math on a piece of paper. I'm saying, okay, I've got this variable and this, and they come together and this. And then about 2 months ago, I started inviting family members into play. I had another game designer start playtesting with me. That's been done. Before I go to Genghis Khan, I will be going to a wonderful little store in Kalispell called Bards and Cards. They're big Magic the Gathering people there.
Okay.
But they have agreed to do some playtesting with us. So my hope is to go there. The holdup, I'll be real honest with you, the holdup on all of the really robust playtesting where you invite multiple groups of 6 people to stress test it. The problem with all that has been plastics. It's trying to get plastics in the US for all the miniatures that we have in the game series, to where what the cards tell you encounter, you actually have pieces to represent that. That's been the biggest challenge for us. So we've used tons of minis from other games, pieces from this or that in order to get that robust testing in. But boy, won't it be fun when I've got the actual minis, which I don't know if you guys looked through our pictures of all of our miniatures in the series.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we ended up with 151 unique sculpts.
Wow. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But Genghis Khan is going to be our first convention, and we're super excited to invite people in to demo the game.
Great.
And just to talk and to sit down and tell us what they think.
So tell us about the encounter maps.
Okay, well, in the core box, we're giving players 7 double-sided encounter maps, which are 18-inch by 18. The overland maps are circular. And then once we get into the underlands, those are all square encounter maps, 18 by 18. And that's what dictates the sizes of the boxes for our game series, is these maps. 18-inch was the size that, to me, allowed us a 1-inch grid designed for dungeon complexes. It gave us enough space to really do something with that. That was intricate and interesting. We tried 12-inch encounter maps, and they just limited the play and the design of those dungeons so much that we felt like a lot of realism was lost. So like I said, in the core box, you're going to get 14, which is 7 double-sided. So you get like a forest, a plains map, an icy tundra map, an ocean map with a ship where you're on board the Lady Virtue, which is the ship that we're able to take to other continents. We have a cavern map. We have our first 2 very primitive dungeon maps, which is the square map. We have a marsh, we have river, we have a coastal map, we have a mountain map. And so we really cover all of the biomes of the world in these initial 14. And that's where all the action takes place. That's where the battles all occur. So when you move across this enormous 27 by 36 inch overland map, you're kind of out at satellite view. And then the very minute you come across an enemy, you're going to zoom in to these encounter maps that are specific to the type of terrain that you're traversing. So it makes for a very unique experience depending on where in the world you are fighting enemies.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a good idea too.
Yeah, it really is.
Thank you.
So that made me. So I saw looking on the website a mock-up of one of the player dashboards. Is that can you kind of describe? Is that like a 2-layer board, or is it like a plastic tray, or?
Yeah, we tried. We consider I think there's a lot of games that do the double level cardboard player dashboards very well. I think Machina Arcana does a nice job with theirs, and there's several others that have done a nice job with, cardstock layered. We intentionally set out to design one that was complex enough that we didn't feel like it could be adequately done with 2-layer cardboard. So we end up with an angled plastic. It's very concise. At the top of the hero dashboard, you have one slot that is for your equipment or inventory, and one slot for your equipped items. And we have to separate those because they're treated differently depending on what happens in the world. Maybe your inventory is at risk of being destroyed or lost, but your equipped items are safe because they're on your person. And then it acts as for a lot of data points. You've got your hero card, you've got skills down one side, you have your statistics down another, and then you have a place for what we call an affliction or enhancement die that modifies those stats. Under that is a couple rows for your life, which is health, and then movement. And then on the other side at the bottom, we have a place for fatigue, which is one of the enemies of the world of Vrahode, is being tired. Below that, we have mitigation, which is your protective level, what your gear gives you. And then the last line under that, number of known skills. So when you start the game on normal difficulty, you're going to start the game with 3 unique skills for your role. And as you adventure and advance, you will gain additional skills. And then the last thing on the hero dashboard in the very center is your available and spent rule. That is your pool of magic that is available to you in a given wake cycle or day. And then when we have worn ourselves out in battle, we enter a different mode called rest mode that is designed to help us recover that if everything goes well.
Very cool.
That's ominous.
Yeah. But thank you so much, guys. I so appreciate you. I look forward to talking more. Hopefully, when we get closer to launch.
Yeah, that'd be great. We're looking forward to that as well.
But we have a tabletop simulator being done right now by Ken Cunningham, who's a wonderful gentleman that did one for Madara, and I think he's helped other people.
Mhm.
We have a booth at Origins this year in Columbus,
nice.
Ohio. I just tonight signed up to attend Dragon Con in Atlanta.
Nice.
Fantastic.
And I'm still hoping beyond hope that there is some sort of opportunity that we might be able to attend Gen Con. We were turned down for a booth, but I'm still reaching out to them, and I had another company approach me about maybe sharing a booth with them.
Oh, that's nice.
Serious Business Games in France. And so if that works out, we might be able to share a booth with them, but I don't know. I may show up at Gen Con anyway, just to be a pain in the butt, you know.
You should.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you got to get the word out there. That's really what it comes out to, right?
That's it.
It's hard being smaller, and it's the same thing, you know, we get as a smaller channel just trying to grow, right? We got to get out there, getting the word out. And
the day will come when Lola and Sean and Jeff can sit down and play Vrahode together.
That would be amazing.
And hopefully I can convince you that it's something that should be in rotation.
That's a date, man, you know.
That's right.
It was so nice to meet you.
You guys too. Have a great night. So
thanks for watching today, everyone. If this sounds like an interesting game to you, if you want to check it out, we are going to leave a link in the description below for their website. Do check it out. Also, if you're interested in this, please share this video, get the word out, help us spread the word of this really remarkable sounding game coming to Kickstarter soon.
Well, thanks very much for tuning in, and happy gaming, folk.
Folk?
Folk, just one of you.